Ever, like, obsess over the small stuff?
Yeah.
You know, when you're working on a project and just get hung up on one tiny detail.
Oh, absolutely.
Like one word in a tagline.
Yeah.
The exact shade of blue for a button.
Mm-hmm.
It can feel like overkill sometimes, right?
You can.
But today we're diving deep on why those choices, even though they seem small, can actually make or break a marketing campaign.
Absolutely. It's not really about perfectionism. You know, it's about understanding that marketing campaigns, they're complex systems.
Right.
And just like any system, even the tiniest flaw can throw everything off.
Yeah, our source material for this deep dive uses the analogy of a car engine.
Okay.
It basically says you wouldn't just pull out like a random screw and hope for the best, right? But how does that apply to, like, you know, our marketing campaigns?
Yeah.
Is a typo really going to make our engine explode?
Well, maybe not explode, but it could definitely cause some sputtering.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, you're launching this brand new tech product, and there's a typo in the features list on your website, you know, where you have like the key features.
Yeah.
That one little error that can actually erode trust with potential customers.
Really?
They might start questioning the quality of the product itself.
Oh, wow.
Your attention to detail as a company.
Yeah.
Even like your credibility, just from that one little typo.
Okay, so it can kind of snowball from something small like that.
Exactly.
Just gives this overall impression, even if people don't consciously realize it.
Precisely. Our source material talks about the concept of error margins.
Error margins, okay.
And it's interesting because teams, often they have these unspoken tolerances for these small errors, like, somebody will catch it.
Right.
We can always fix it later.
Go be fine.
And that's where things get interesting.
Interesting how, now you've got me curious.
So the source material makes a distinction between error margins and what it calls laziness margins.
Laziness margins. Okay, I like that. I like that distinction.
Yeah, so an error margin is kind of like a safety net. Like having a backup of your presentation.
Right.
But a laziness margin is assuming that someone else is going to bring the projector.
Oh, I see.
And not checking.
That's a really good way to put it because, I mean, how many times have we all been in that situation, right?
Exactly.
Or we're just like, oh, it'll be fine. Someone else will take care of it.
Yeah.
So how do we avoid falling into that laziness margin?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is. It is.
It's about moving from a reactive mindset to a proactive one.
Okay.
So instead of waiting for someone to hopefully catch our mistakes, we build systems and processes that minimize the chance of those mistakes even happening.
So it's about being more intentional with our approach.
Exactly.
But isn't that also, you know, kind of time-consuming, especially in a fast-paced field like marketing?
It can be, but here's the thing. It can be, but here's the thing. Being meticulous doesn't necessarily mean that we work slower.
Okay.
It's about working smarter.
So what does that look like practically? How do we work smarter to catch these small things without bringing everything to a grinding halt?
Yeah, think of it like building a house.
Okay.
So you wouldn't wait until the house is completely built to check if the foundation's level, would you?
Right. No, of course not.
You build those checks in at each stage of the process as you go.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for a marketing campaign, what would that look like? Can you give me an example?
Absolutely. Let's say you're creating a series of social media posts.
Okay.
So instead of just like churning them out one after the other, you build in time for a teammate to review the copy, you know, check for errors, make sure the links work, the branding's all consistent, that kind of thing.
Right. So you're catching all those errors before they have a chance to go out into the world.
Exactly.
But what about the bigger picture? How does, like, this attention to detail actually affect the overall success of a campaign?
Well, it's all about building trust and credibility with your audience.
Okay.
Just think about a brand that you really admire, any brand.
Okay.
Chances are they consistently sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Their website's really easy to use. Their emails are well written.
Yeah.
Even just like their packaging feels carefully thought out.
Yeah, it's true. When I see that level of polish, it makes me trust the brand more.
Exactly.
It makes me feel like they actually care about the work they're putting out, and that translates to caring about me as a consumer.
Exactly, and that's what it is. It's about demonstrating competence.
Okay.
Which then builds confidence in your brand.
Right.
It tells people that you take your work seriously and that they can rely on you to deliver.
This is making me think about the team dynamic, though.
Yeah?
Do you need a team full of, like, total perfectionists to be able to do this?
That's a good question, and actually our source material kind of touches on this. And it suggests that diverse perspectives are actually key to catching these errors and maintaining a healthy error margin.
So how do you balance those different working styles then? Like you've got your big picture thinkers, and then you've got your detail-oriented people.
Communication is key.
Okay.
It's about creating an environment where everyone feels comfortable flagging any potential issues, even if they seem really small.
Okay.
And it's also about recognizing that different team members are going to have different error tolerance levels, you know?
Right.
What's really important to one person might not be as important to another.
I imagine that leads to some interesting conversations.
It definitely can.
Yeah.
Those conversations, even if there's a little bit of debate or disagreement, they're so valuable.
Right.
They force us to really think about our assumptions, to justify our choices, and in the end, come up with better solutions.
So a little bit of healthy conflict can actually be a good thing. Absolutely. It shows that everyone's really invested in the project and that they feel comfortable, you know, sharing their opinions and speaking up.
Exactly. And when you have that kind of environment, it allows for like so much more creativity, and you end up with these really strong solutions because you've had everybody contribute.
Right.
And remember, it's not about like never making a mistake. You know, that's never going to happen.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's more about having a system in place that catches those mistakes early.
Right.
And a team that's ready to adapt and learn from those mistakes.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's less about being perfect.
Yeah.
And more about just being prepared.
I like that.
Prepared to catch things, prepared to have those conversations, and prepared to change course if we need to.
Exactly.
But how do we cultivate that mindset? Both in ourselves and in our teams, because it's one thing to say like, oh yeah, we should be more detail-oriented.
Yeah.
But it's another to actually put it into practice.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It is. And I think it starts with kind of a perspective shift. You know, instead of looking at mistakes as these big failures, we need to start seeing them as opportunities for growth.
I like that.
You know, encourage that experimentation. Don't be afraid to try new things, even if it means that you might make some mistakes along the way.
That's a really good point, because a culture that embraces those mistakes and learns from them, that's going to be a culture that's way more innovative in the long run.
Exactly, exactly. And when you create that safe space for experimentation and that iteration, it lets people bring their full creativity and their ingenuity to the table.
That's awesome.
And that's when the magic really happens.
This has been a really insightful deep dive.
It has.
So to wrap things up here, what's like the one key takeaway that you really want our listeners to walk away with today?
Remember that all this, you know, the meticulousness, the attention to detail, it's not about trying to be perfect because that's impossible. It's about respecting the work, respecting your audience, and building something that lasts, you know? Building a brand and a business that people can trust.
I love that. So next time you're tempted to just rush through that final checklist, or just dismiss something as insignificant, remember this conversation.
Exactly.
Because that one small thing, it really can make all the difference.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy diving, everybody.